Hurry up, Ray, you're holding everybody up. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started now. There's still a few people coming in, but we do want to get started. Good. Well, it's really quite special, and I feel really nice to see so many people here. I understand about 215 registered for lunch, and that's spectacular. So thank you for coming today. It's really appreciated. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Don O'Leary. I'm the Vice President of Finance and Administration here at the University, and I'm also the Chair of the Wellness at Work Committee. So again, thank you for coming today. And you may see that I just got back from South Carolina, and I hope that I brought the good weather with me. It certainly is down there, although we haven't seen too much of it here yet. So anyway, thank you to everyone who's come out to celebrate our second annual Be Well, Be Safe Week, a partnership between Wellness at Work and Student Wellness. We're trying to work together, the two committees, although Wellness at Work sort of focuses on staff, faculty, and student wellness obviously goes without saying. We're trying to work together as much as we can because some of the issues that are faced by students and some of the issues faced by us as employees are similar for sure. So we try to co-sponsor and work together as much as we can. Starting with this kickoff event today and throughout the week, we are celebrating National Mental Health Week and North American Occupational Safety and Health Week. There are dozens of free activities taking place for you to boost your mental well-being and promote workplace safety. Looking at the schedule, which I don't know if we have hard copies around, but it's easy to look at online, I really think there is something for everyone this week. There's a great opportunity to learn a new skill, like playing the ukulele, like our accompanist here earlier. Visit the fitness center and try a free class. Get creative with the Sparking Art Workshop, or build your own soy candle. Hear from experts on campus on inclusion and workplace well-being, veterinary mental health, or instructor perspectives on student mental health. Join a workshop with one of our many community partners on positive body image, self-care strategies, or stress. You can also test your knowledge about Spot the Hazard activity and enter your completed answers for a chance to win a $25 hospitality services gift card. These are just a few examples of the many activities I encourage you to take advantage of. Mental health and workplace culture is an important pillar to our Wellness at Work initiative, following Excellence Canada's Healthy Workplace model. We are committed to working together to support the well-being of the whole person and providing a vibrant campus that is inclusive and respectful, where everyone is valued. Over the last year, we have continued to make progress in advancing our vision of creating a thriving workforce, organization, and community, and I hope you all agree. Many of you are aware that Associate Vice Presidents and Deans participated in a Positive Focus Forward workshop with their individual leadership teams to develop a wellness action plan for their department or unit using data from the Wellness at Work survey that most of you or many of you have completed. It's very encouraging learning about the steps leaders are taking to enhance our workplace culture and promote positive mental health. We launched the first cohort of our new Learning for Wellbeing program in January, focused on collaborative leadership and wellness. 25 leaders from a variety of roles across campus have been given some new skills to help tackle the problems and challenges we all face. The second cohort is happening again later this month, and is still open for applications. And I invite you to apply and get involved. I understand as of this morning we have 18 applicants, and we can take 25, so there's still positions open there for some of you that are interested. It's not just about leadership folks. We had a great mix of people from various job aspects in the last group. The Wellness at Work Advisory Committee has also drafted a longer-term Wellness at Work strategic plan that we are now gathering feedback on through our consultation process. We are excited and hopeful that this plan will help us to continue moving the dial and enhance our workplace culture. We've done a lot of things, we've created a lot of activities, but this has to be sustainable. It has to be measured, it has to have very specific results, and we have to work from a strategy going forward. I'm so impressed with the engagement and commitment so many of you have made to our Healthy Workplace Initiative, so thank you very much. Even the coming today, to the extent that you have, is very, very gratifying for me personally. We know that 1 in 5 Canadians live with mental health problems, mental illness or addiction. But the reality is 5 in 5 of us have mental health, just like we all have physical health. We can all benefit from celebrating, promoting, and acknowledging the role that good mental health plays in living a full and meaningful life. I hope that you will take advantage of the opportunities available to you this week to protect, promote, and celebrate your own mental health. I'm fortunate now to introduce our keynote speaker today, Scott St. Brie. Scott is going to talk about the happiness trap and his own journey with finding meaning in life. Scott is the founder of Depression to Expression. Scott's journey into mental health advocacy started when he uploaded his very first YouTube video about his diagnosis of clinical depression and generalized anxiety disorder. Depression to Expression is now serving over 250,000 members online, reaching over 15 million people around the world. Scott challenges people to think about mental health differently and adapt an attitude of curiosity, openness, and self-expression. Scott has achieved success working for some big names, including Twitter and the Canadian Mental Health Association. He now provides workshops and presentations to schools and organizations, creating an honest dialogue about what mental health truly means. So please join me in welcoming Scott.
Can't stop smiling. I'm truly honored, grateful, humbled, and happy to be here. I'm really happy at this moment to be here. And happy, yes, in the superficial sense, right? We all know what happiness means. We all experience happiness. We all chase happiness. And throughout the past 11 years, I've wanted to know what happiness truly means and how can I be truly happy. And this journey started for me in 2008, 11 years ago, down the street at the University of Waterloo. And that was when I was diagnosed with clinical depression and generalized anxiety disorder. And, you know, as a child, I had a beautiful upbringing. Beautiful parents, 3 older brothers, 1 younger sister, big family. We were obviously Catholic. Loving family. And these diagnoses made me question why I was unhappy, what depression actually means, why do I feel this way? Questions just kept piling up by the thousands. So, once I received treatment for these disorders, and that's not really the purpose of the presentation here, I received treatment through loving support from doctors, from family, from friends, and I was able to finally tread water I could finally breathe again after a few years of treatment and really dealing with these disorders. I could finally stand on my own 2 feet. I could get out of bed. And just feeling okay was the best feeling in the world. It is the best feeling in the world, just to be able to eat, just be able to get out of bed, just be able to brush my teeth and wash my face. So when I was able to tread water and do all of these things again, well, what did I do? I wanted to figure out the secret to happiness. How can I stay happy for the rest of my life? How can I not experience depression ever again? So I went to the bookstore, and I went to the self-help section. And has anyone gone to the self-help section in the bookstore? We don't have to be shy. Oh, we all want to know what these smart people are really talking about. So there's so much choice, and I didn't know how to choose. So what did I do? I just bought all of them. And okay, this person's talking about the happiness advantage, the happiness equation. This is how to be happy at work. This is 21 days to happiness. Okay, I've got it on lock. I'm going to do this. So I read all of them. And in this presentation, I'd just like to save you some time. I want you don't have to go buy all these books, because there's 4 things that each and every one of these books has in them. 4 ways to be happy. And there's a difference between being happy and feeling happy. These books did a great job of defining true happiness. But first we need to define it, right? So what is happiness? And what is this thing I'm calling the happiness trap that a lot of us seem to be in sometimes, and I know I was and sometimes still am? What is happiness? Well, we think of happiness as a solvable equation, right? We think once I get A and I combine it with B, once I get the new job, for students, once I graduate, once I get the new job, right? Once I make the team, once I'm invited here, once I get the new car, buy the new TV, then I'll be happy. But I'm not happy yet. Okay, I need to get married first. Okay, I'll get married. Okay, now I'm happy. Now I have kids. Okay, now I'm happy. But I'm still working. Once I retire, then I'm going to be happy. I can play golf all day. We think it's an equation. So it's like A plus B, and then obviously we want to lose a couple pounds. And once we lose a couple pounds, then we'll be happy. But that's not really the way it works. I've discovered that's not the way it works. And I think we all have. Happiness is a work in progress. It's not the pursuit of happiness. That's what we're all told. It's a pursuit. It's something to chase. No, happiness is a creation. It's a construction. It's a process. And happiness lies in our daily, intentional activities. Happiness can be created by us. So what happens with this pie of well-being? We can all agree, and scientists all agree, that we basically have a set point of happiness and well-being. It's genetic. It takes up about 50% of this pie. And we can call it hedonic adaptation. And what this means is, okay, we're feeling okay, and then we make more money, and we get a raise, and we feel pretty good for a little while, right? And then we can afford that new car, and we feel pretty good for a while. But eventually we come back to that baseline and set point of happiness. Same when hardship comes in our lives. With me dealing with depression, extreme hardship, we take a big dip, but eventually we actually come back to that baseline of happiness. And 10% of this is just due to our circumstances. And another 40% is that construction piece. What can we do in our lives, in these daily activities, to increase this sense of well-being and increase this sense of true happiness? And that's how we get out of this happiness trap, thinking that it's a solvable equation, thinking if we just have more stuff that we'll be happier. See, I believe true happiness is being content with all emotion. See, we think of happiness as just the one point on the spectrum. But as we know, emotions come and go all day, non-stop. They're in complete flux. I think true happiness is being content with all emotion and finding meaning and truth in what we do every single day. So, what are these daily activities? What are these new perspectives that we can adopt on a daily basis that all those books really talked about? Well, to be truly happy, we need to, number one, feel bad. Counterintuitive, though, isn't it? To be truly happy, you need to feel bad. This is something I rejected for so long. We're in the pursuit of positive emotion. And we kind of live in that society and culture now of forced positivity, especially online. But we're always looking on the bright side. We never want to look the problem right in the face because we're always thinking about what we should do to solve it right away. So I need your participation here. How many people, when they experience negative emotion, right, when we're going through a hard time, they're kind of like this? Right? It's like the problem comes at you, negative feelings come at you, and you know what to do, you know how to solve it. You call your friends, okay, I have this problem, what should I do? You do a quick WebMD, you do a quick Google search. How many people are like this? Solution focused. Right. And then there's kinds of other people who are more like this, and maybe in a bit of denial of a problem, right? You're sitting in a fire, but you're like, it's going to be okay. It's a little hot, whatever. It's summertime. It doesn't matter, right? But I'd like to challenge everyone, and this is what helped me tremendously throughout the past 11 years since that diagnosis, and has helped me manage depression and anxiety so much. It's when tough emotions come, it's like, accept it. Because I've realized that feeling bad is good. Life sucks sometimes. It really, really does. Hardship comes our way nonstop. And we're not getting out of life without a couple bruises, a couple scrapes, and we're going to fall down and we're going to have to get back up. It's a nonstop roller coaster. But the good news is, we know that struggles and hardship actually determine our success. We can actually turn hardship and difficult times that we go through into meaning. Getting out of the happiness trap means that we're content with all emotion that we experience, not just happiness. It'd be awesome if we could all close our eyes, and I just want to try something. You forgot your wallets at home, don't worry. Just close your eyes, if you don't mind. So, I want us to all think about a difficult time that we went through. Could be fairly recently, could have been 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Maybe it was an emotionally exhausting time. Maybe you had to make a decision that you really didn't want to make. It was difficult. Okay, we can open our eyes. I saw even some people smirking. Isn't it strange for a lot of us that we may even look back on those struggles and be strangely grateful that they happened? Maybe look back with a sense of optimism? Because I think we all recognize that those problems, those challenges that we face, those hardships made us who we are today. And if we don't regret where we are right now at this moment, then how can we ever regret where we've been and what we've gone through? That's what I've realized. It's feeling bad is a mechanism. Our bodies and minds are telling us that there's something that we need to change, something that we need to do, action we need to take. By looking for solutions just right away and not accepting the emotion, we're actually running away from the problem. What we thought about, it might go something like this, right? You have this level of functioning. Remember that baseline of happiness we talked about. And for example, in my own experience, and you can think about your own experiences too that you just thought about, you go through a difficult time and your level of functioning decreases, and a lot of us go into this survival mode. Right? That was me. Survival mode was like, can I actually get down a piece of bread today to actually have energy? But what happens with tools that we have and support that we have from friends and family and colleagues and work programs, well, we can actually recover fairly easily and hit that same level of functioning that we've had before. But the cool thing is about feeling bad and struggling is that we can actually flip hard times right upside down and use it to our advantage. And I think that's what a lot of us realized just now. When we closed our eyes and thought about a difficult circumstance, we're actually grateful that some of these things happen, because mental health can turn into flourishing mental health. When you're able to deal with challenges that you face with optimism, creativity, and meaning. So what we have all done is we've taken something that's negative in the moment and flipped it into a positive. These difficult circumstances, yes, make us who we are, and they actually make us better people. And I think this green line perfectly represents what we're doing this week. The sessions this week aren't necessarily to make you happy in the moment, but they're here to give you tools for your future, to help you deal with those inevitable challenges that are going to come your way. So when your level of functioning decreases, you can have tools and actually turn it against itself and have this idea of flourishing mental health, where you're not just living, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. And that's a beautiful thing, and that's a beautiful feeling to be alive when we know that we're getting better and better each day. So that's number one. We have to be okay with feeling bad. There's no point of having this kind of forced positivity all the time. Number two, values. Each and every one of those books, there's at least 10 chapters on values. And this took me a long time to actually figure out too, because I thought the 10 Commandments were values. I'm like, thou shalt not kill, check. All right, I'm good. Do not commit adultery, I'm single, check, I'm good. Those weren't necessarily values, although I thought I was doing pretty well. What's happened with my generation especially, I know I'm a nice young chap, I'm a gross millennial. Well, we came up with this thing called YOLO. And it makes me cringe just thinking about it. YOLO, we thought this was a value. We thought that you only live once. So our idea was, if something feels good, then let's do it. But that's so backwards, because just because something feels good doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. Actually, sometimes the things that feel the worst are usually the best things for us and the right things to do, right? So this idea of values, it's not what you just say yes to, it's about what you say no to. It's about standing for something. It's not agreeing with everything, it's knowing where you stand and what you disagree with. That's why YOLO is not a value. And that's why happiness, when we talk about the happiness trap, happiness isn't a value either. Pleasure isn't a value either. Values need to be renewable. Let's just think about, okay, if happiness was our value, we know that happiness is fleeting all the time. And here's just an example. You woke up this morning, and very few people get up in the morning and jump out of bed and smile and are happy to be alive. So we got out of bed, we're a little tired, right? We're not too happy. Maybe we're even a little sad. Serotonin levels are down. But then we had a cup of coffee, we had a shower, we're feeling pretty good. Right? We go outside, the sun is shining, that's awesome. We're feeling good. And then we drive to work and we get stuck in traffic and some dude cuts us off, so then we get a little angry. We get a little impatient. But then we come to an event like this and we see some friendly faces, and then we're happy again. We forget about the traffic. Emotions are in waves. And then you know what you decided to do? You took out your phone and then you scrolled through Instagram and you saw a friend of yours in Barbados with her kids having a great time with a sweet tan. And then you became jealous, maybe a little bitter, maybe a little resentful. But then I showed you this GIF, and then we all got happy again. Okay. I've shown this in so many presentations, and I still love it so much. So happiness isn't a value because it's in constant flux. And we know that if you make decisions based on emotion only, well, you know where that takes us. If I made decisions only based on what I thought would make me feel good, I would eat way more cheesecake than I should. Just think about it. So we need logic in our decision making, not just emotion, right? So these are a good set of values. And this is what Brené Brown, if anyone knows her, this is what she's made millions of dollars talking about, is developing a solid value system. You go to Tony Robbins events, this is what he talks about the whole time. Develop a solid value system. Know where you stand, because good values are renewable. They last a lifetime. Yes, they can change. But if honesty is my value, clearly, because I make YouTube videos and talk about depression and my own experiences, I guess I got to be pretty honest. But it's not like honesty is renewable. Yes, it's not like after a month I'm like, okay, I was honest 78 times, check, that's my value. Now I can start lying. No, these last a lifetime. So we need to take time and really think about what we value in life, what we stand for, because when difficult times come, right? When hardship comes, and now we're feeling negative and not happy, well, how do we know which way to go? You look to your value system. Values are the sails in the storm that guide us, and when we need a rest, values are the anchors that hold us in place. That's why we need them. This helped me tremendously when dealing with depression and anxiety. That's number 2. Okay, number 3. This really wasn't in any of those books, but this is just from my own personal experience. And does anyone know what IRL means? Oh, thank God. Because I only knew what IRL meant this year. It means in real life. So I am getting old. Whew. Okay, IRL means in real life. We need more in real life time. Each of us has a rectangle in our pockets. The rectangle of security, right? Phone. And we're on them quite a bit. And I've been on YouTube for 6 years. This is the first audience I've told this to, actually, this next part. I've been on YouTube for 6 years. And recently, I noticed, within the last year, I worked in advertising for quite some time, right? And I decided to do this mental health thing right, and let's do it full time. So let's increase the online presence. So for 6 years, I wanted to get the message out about mental health, and I wanted to be a YouTube creator. So last month was my biggest month ever for YouTube statistics, right? 4.6, almost 5 million views in a month, unique views with people all over the world. 12 million minutes watched of my face. 15,000 comments, 10,000 shares, gained another 38,000 new subscribers. And immediately, I turned this success into a failure within a second, because I had this metric of comparing this success with other influencers online. And other influencers get way more views, and I felt like total garbage when I made this comparison. YouTube, to me, was really making me mentally ill. It was taking a toll on my mental health. It was taking me back too many steps. I forgot what my values were. I forgot that real relationships, human connection is what we live for. You ask anyone, what do you like most about your job? 9 times out of 10, the people. The people, right? But you pick up garbage all day. Yeah, but I work with some awesome people. That's not the point. It's the people that matter, not necessarily the job. It's human connection. We thrive. We thrive and base our life around our relationships and these decisions and who we get to include in our little weird worlds. So YouTube was hurting me. So what did I decide to do? The last few months, I've taken a huge break and realized that I feel so much better. This is what I realized about YouTube and the online world. It's like 10% of it. Okay, this is what we see online. This is the online world. So we have terrible news, right? And And then we have amazing news. And working at social media companies, I know what gets clicks, and the terrible stuff gets clicks. How do I know this? How do we know this? Because we click it. And the amazing stuff gets clicks and views too. Because as we scroll through Instagram, we see the amazing things. We scroll through Facebook, we see amazing all the time. We see our friend in Barbados. We see the guy with 16 abs. It's amazing. But what we forget is that real life is right now. This is what's important. Maybe, depending on our situation and our circumstances, maybe this very moment isn't necessarily terrible. Yes, it is amazing, but most of our life, maybe it's a little average. Maybe we get up in the morning and we commute and we go to work and then we go home and spend time with loved ones and then do it all over again. But this idea of forced positivity and looking at the amazing all the time, we think that average is now a failure. And that's so backwards. What I've learned to do is savor the simple. Notice that moments just like this takes up 80%. Our daily lives, those daily intentional activities, the conversation you have with colleagues, the commute home, spending time with friends and family, watching TV, having a great lunch. We're going to look back on these moments and realize, yep, that was like 90% of my life, the day-to-day. The happiness trap thinks that happiness is always in the future, and it's the big moments are the only ones that matter. Because we're constantly waiting. But what are you waiting for? The 3 words I use is, this is it. This is it, right here, this moment, right now. We don't always have to wait for the amazing to happen. I think of it like a ladder with this corporate ladder, it doesn't matter, but we're constantly climbing these rungs, these small rungs, and we wait for these big platforms to finally rest on. So you're climbing, okay, you can graduate and you can take a rest. You're climbing, you get a job, okay, you can take a rest. Climbing to the promotion, you get a rest. Climbing for kids and marriage, you can have a rest. We forget about the actual rungs along the way, each small step that get us there. Remember, happiness is a process. It's a work in progress. It's a construction. We don't need to wait for it. With our perspective, it's right here, right now, that true happiness of being content with all the emotions we experience. I just want to read something quick from French novelist Marcel Proust. I raised my lips a spoonful of the tea in which I had soaked in a morsel of the cake. No sooner had the warm liquid mixed with the crumbs touched my palate than a shudder ran through me and I stopped, intent upon the extraordinary thing that was happening to me. An exquisite pleasure had invaded my senses, something isolated, detached, with no suggestion of its origin. I had ceased now to feel mediocre, contingent, or mortal. He's talking about sipping tea and eating cake. And the way he described it, it's like the best moment of his entire life. What if we savor the 80%? This is savoring life's moments. Realizing that this is it, and the average is actually spectacular, and the amazing happens every day, redefining that definition of amazing and happiness, helps us be more satisfied in the mundane, the daily routine, the daily tedium. Helps us be grateful. And the last one, to help us achieve this sense of true happiness and get out of this happiness trap, is practicing mindfulness. And this really sums everything up that we've talked about, the first 3. Because mindfulness, all it is notice what's happening right now. And there are a bunch of fancy definitions for it, but this was actually done by a bunch of elementary school students. Mindfulness is noticing what's happening right now. This was a lifesaver for me. When I could finally tread water and I could breathe. Mindfulness, number one, you accept that feeling bad is okay. Remember number one? Number two, in times of mindfulness, you get to reflect on those values you've created. And number three, in real life, well, mindfulness is observing what's happening right now. This is real life. You're completely soaked in the moment. When we practice mindfulness, it looks something like this. Something happens to us, good or bad, doesn't matter. And it's the stimulus, and then we automatically react, right? And this triangle represents your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. They're all connected. So something happens to us, and we react right away. Sometimes not in the best way, right? Mindfulness creates a gap between what happens and how we react. That's all it is. So if something bad happens, if something tragic happens, and we take a pause, we take a breath, we notice what's happening right now. We accept the emotion, whatever it is, whether it's feeling bad, feeling anxious, feeling depressed, feeling sad, feeling happy, feeling worried. Maybe we reflect on our values. Okay, is my response going to be in accordance and in line with honesty, with self-expression, with responsibility? And then we react. And you notice how the reaction changes after this moment of breathing, after this moment of mindfulness. This is how we bring all those three together into one, into this practice of mindfulness. So the happiness trap. How do we avoid it? How do we avoid this thought that happiness is an equation? A plus B minus 10 pounds equals happiness. Well, number one, feel bad because it's good for you. Number two, values first. Develop that solid value system. Number three, more in real life time, face to face, where you can make eye contact with human beings, right? Where you can smell them. Face-to-face, in-person contact. And lastly, mindfulness. To bring it all together, to notice what's happening right now. Notice what's happening today. Really soak it in. Soak in this moment right now. Just before I finish, I want to just tell you a quick story. There was a monk, and that's how every good story starts. There was a monk. And he had his student next to his side, and he says, "Student," he didn't have a name, "Student, I want you to create a perfect garden for me. When I go outside of the temple and meditate, I want to be in complete bliss and heaven when I get all Zen-like." And the student says, "Okay, how much time do I have? Are you paying me?" And the monk says, "Okay, you have 3 weeks." So what does the student do? Well, he has to create the perfect garden. So he takes scissors and a ruler and goes to each blade of grass and cuts it 2 inches long. He takes his shears and goes to each tree and bush and hedge, and like Edward Scissorhands creates these perfect shapes. He goes underneath the trees and picks up every single dead twig, leaf, and blade of grass he can. He goes to the temple steps and the interlocking and sweeps every single piece of soil and dirt off of it. After 3 weeks, he goes to the monk and said, "Okay, it's done. Come have a look." And very monk-like, the monk comes out and the student anxiously, "Well, what do you think? What do you say something, please?" And he says, "I hate it." And the student, "Well, what do you mean you hate it? It's perfect. It's just what you wanted." And the monk asked the student to bring the bag of leaves and dead twigs and soil over in the bags. And the monk takes the soil and dead twigs and throws it on the grass. And he takes more dead twigs and leaves and throws it on the path. And he goes to the temple walls and scrapes a little bit. Takes more dead leaves and throws it under the tree. And he says, "Oh, now that's perfect." I like this story because it proves the point and aligns with my idea of perfection. It's the imperfection that sometimes holds all beauty. It's the chaos. It's the feeling bad that adds meaning into our lives. It's the suffering at times that helps us notice what we're worth, helps us develop self-worth, helps us develop self-respect. It's the chaos. It's the dead trees. It's the leaves. It's the twigs. People don't go to plantations where they just plant trees in a line and go for a walk. No, you go to an old growth forest where trees have been toppled down by lightning, and there's new growth and there's decay. That's what life is. Sometimes it's a dirty, muddy path, but that's what we're here for. To avoid the happiness trap, it's not the solvable equation. It lies in the daily activities that we all take part in. Okay, let's get messy together. Thanks, everyone. I'm a big proponent of in real life time, so maybe follow me if you want, okay? No pressure at all. And we do have time for questions. There is a microphone right here. Or if you have a good set of lungs, you can probably just yell it out. Yes, Don.
Time, did you seek professional assistance with your depression, anxiety, and if so, did they ever speak before?
So the question was, did I ever seek professional help? Absolutely. So I went to the University of Waterloo, as I mentioned, and counseling services was a lifesaver. They really were. And I didn't know what mental health was. It was my first year of university. Like, why would mental health be on my mind? I had no idea what I was feeling and how to even label this feeling. It was the unknown. And counseling services set a path for me. More on-campus resources, sought help from a psychiatrist, and it was a battle, right? Anything worth doing, any reward worth accepting is going to take some hardship along the way. But counseling services and professional help, seeing a psychologist, was so foreign to me. How can sitting in a room with another human being possibly help these intrusive feelings and thoughts that are going through in my mind? I didn't know how it was possible. And somehow, through cognitive behavioral therapy and a few other tools I have, through practicing mindfulness, and then through adopting these 4 things and setting values straight, the recovery ended up being a lot smoother than I first anticipated. Yeah. Now, it's not to say that I don't still struggle with depression all the time. It comes, but it goes. And anxiety comes, and it goes. That's the beautiful thing about adopting this idea of mindfulness. It's this Buddhist approach of non-attachment, right? Not attaching yourself to a feeling because you know it's so fleeting. With that example of us getting up in the morning and then we're here, then we see the GIF, we know that emotion's fleeting. It's in all of our experiences. Sometimes we just need to reflect and know that's actually true. Yeah. Thanks, Don. Any other brave souls out there? You can always talk to me after if you have a private question. Yes? The big thing, I think, for me was actually the YouTube part. So the question was, when did I actually realize that happiness was a trap? There's a great book out there called The Happiness Equation by a friend of mine, Neil Pasricha. And I actually interviewed him on my YouTube channel. It's a great interview, but his idea was, yes, it's not a solvable equation. But for me personally, it was me constantly trying to run away from feelings of depression, and any other feeling that wasn't happiness turned out to be a failure. That's what happens when I had happiness and well-being, well, the superficial sense of happiness, as a value. The moment I wasn't happy, I automatically failed my value system because it's so fleeting. It's not really renewable that way. So the moment I really noticed that and changed my values to something like honesty, something more renewable, that's when I realized that happiness is so overrated. And just as we did the exercise when we close our eyes and we think of, well, some of the best moments that we look back on, maybe happiness wasn't even part of the sphere of influence that we experienced. It's funny because in the moment, you actually don't know what a positive or negative experience is. So in the moment, you don't know if it's a positive or negative experience. You know what feels good, you know what feels bad, but you only know if it's positive or negative a week down the road, maybe a year from now, when you look back. So if I look back at depression in the moment, it was absolute hell. But now I look back and say, wow, I'm glad it happened. I'm glad I went through it. Pretty strange, isn't it? But that's how it works. Thanks for the question. I hope that answered your question. Oh, sorry, the other thing with YouTube about, so the metric was, if I get more views and become more popular online, then my happiness should increase. That's what I honestly thought. The more views should equate to more happiness. And obviously that's not the case. The more views I got, and this month was the best I've ever had, working my butt off for 6 years. I don't feel any different. It's that hedonic treadmill I talked about. You feel good for a while, and you come back down to your regular state of happiness. That's why I think happiness is a little overrated in today's culture. We base decisions off this idea of happiness. What is going to make me happy right now? What decision is going to make me happy? But I think for all of us, we're here right now in this moment, and we can think of decisions that we've made, and they weren't just based out of pure happiness. What's going to make us happy? We had to plan our future. We had to make tough decisions to be where we are right now. Any other questions? Yes.
So events like this support the fact that there are changing views on mental health. But when you read your notes and you went to your first counseling, how did the stigma of mental health, or did it affect you?
That's a great question. Oh my gosh, I could be up here for hours. I'd love to talk with you afterwards. So the definition of mental health is, you can get 10 psychiatrists in a line right here and psychologists. And the definition of mental health and well-being and mental illness is so complicated. And we actually don't agree on a lot of these things because it differs per each individual and it's completely subjective to the individual. Like, how do you know if someone's completely mentally ill versus just experience a difficult situation? Well, it's usually you compare to that baseline of happiness, but everyone's baseline is different. It gets pretty complicated. This definition of mental health for me, the Canadian Mental Health Association has a great definition. And I think it's to enjoy, let me think about this, to enjoy the everyday, to enjoy living and living a meaningful life, but to be able to deal with the challenges that we face. So someone with not the greatest idea and sense of mental health, when hardship comes their way and something difficult, they might fall right away. Having good mental health is being resilient to change, being resilient to difficult circumstance. As far as stigma goes, I told my family right away. I told friends right away. I'm that person who, with that meme about tea and anxiety, I put 100 bags in that kettle. I thought, okay, something's wrong. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I'm worried all the time. Nothing's changed. I'm in a great university. There's people that care for me. What's going on? Let's solve the problem. It was as simple as that. I know that's not as simple for everyone, and I know stigma obviously exists, but for me, my mindset was just get me out of this hellhole, and I did everything I could to get out. Yeah. Any other questions? Good. How to help friends that are clinically depressed? Great question. And again, everyone's different in their needs and what they accept as treatment. What my parents did was pretty incredible. When I was 18, 19, and few 18 and 19-year-olds are going to take advice from their parents because every 18 and 19-year-old knows everything about the world. Come on, you kidding me? So I thought I knew everything, and I didn't even want to take advice from even friends because You don't know what I'm going through. How could you possibly tell me what's good for me because you don't know what it's like to be me? So what friends can do is, and what made all the difference for me is just, hey, when you want to talk, when you want to come to my dorm room, when you want to come over, when you want to call me, when you want to text me, I will be there. Anytime, I will be right there. That's exactly what my parents said too. Whatever you need, whenever you need it, I am there. So it created this like metaphorical safety net for me. It's like, okay, when I fall, someone can catch me. That's a great feeling. That's a great sense of security, right? For me personally, that's what helped so much. Yeah. Thanks, Don.
Thank you, Scott. Really. Stay here for a second. So, small token of appreciation. So, sometime in the future, when you look at the University of Guelph on these things, I hope that they bring you some happiness and that reflection, mindfulness that you were here and you had a good day today. So, thank you very much.
So much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I really enjoyed your talk. I really did. So I was thinking about values and honesty, self-expression, responsibility, and authenticity. Must be really interesting when you think about a guy like Donald Trump, eh? Where's the honesty, the self-expression, responsibility, authenticity? He must be the most miserable person in the world, in my opinion. Anyway, again, thanks, Scott, for opening up about your story and encouraging all of us to continue to seek real meaning in our lives. So, again, thanks. So, I want to close by recognizing the people that put this opportunity together. There's a lot of you that have volunteered. There were folks at the door today that had volunteers' sweaters on or T-shirts on, and I know a lot of you have given your time. So, if you could, those that have organized and been involved this week or at any time in our Be Well, Be Safe activities, please stand up for a second. We'd like to recognize you and say thank you with applause. So I'm here today, but I'm certainly not alone. The senior leadership team are encouraging me and are very, very supportive of all of what we're doing and have been doing, and really encourage all of you to take time out of your busy week to attend at least one of the activities scheduled for this week. And please also remember that the planned wellness activities don't just stop this week. The Wellness at Work Programming Committee creates a monthly calendar, and they do a lot of things. It's really quite remarkable what they do. And you can find those on the wellness site, on blog posts. We have contests. We promote these through the Wellness at Work Champions, and as I say, on the website. So, again, thank you, all of you, for coming out today, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have, and really great to see all of you here today. So, thanks very much again.